Hi, I'm Larry Puckett. Well, before we leave the subject of turnouts, there's one more thing that I want to share with you, and that's how to add feeders to the frogs on your turnouts. So let's get started. I've got a demonstration to show you exactly how to do it, 2 different ways, and also how to install those turnouts so that you can get that feeder wire in there without disrupting everything else. So stick around for the video and we'll get started here in a second. Hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. The first thing I want to show you how I add feeders to the bottom of turnouts like this number 6 from Microengineering. And as I remind you, I'm going to be using a pair of number 6s to create my crossovers here on the main line. And these are the feeders. You can see these green wires that go to the frogs. And people have asked me over and over, how do I do this? Because they say they can't get it to work. So I'm going to show you guys one more time. It is very easy if you know what you're doing. Okay, so right here is the frog on this turnout. And we want to be able to control the polarity or the phase of that frog. So if you look on the bottom here, right here you can see there's a little spot that is exposed. That is the bronze that makes up this casting for the frog. So we're going to, and they provide this here for attaching feeders for your frogs. So I hope you can see that right at the tip here of this file. There's a little dot of bronze. And with the way that I got that exposed, because this one was not that well exposed, I took an X-Acto knife blade and I scraped and removed some of the plastic that was still on there. And you can actually cut it like this, but you want to expose this little bronze dot right there, because we have to prepare that by pre-tinning it. Now, what's pre-tinning? Pre-tinning simply means that you take your solder and you create a dot of molten solder right here and let that harden. And then you do the same thing with your feeders. So we're going to add solder to this tip right here of the feeder and to that dot on the bottom of the frog. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to pre-tin the bottom of the frog. Now, I already got my soldering iron set up. This is good old Radio Shack rosin soldering flux. It's pine rosin or resin. And let me see if I can get it open. It tends to dry out a bit and harden in the threads. There it goes. Okay. And this is literally the resin from a pine tree, and it's been made into a paste. I think they add ether or some other kind of organic solvent to it. And so it creates this little paste of flux. And flux is what you use to keep oxides from forming on your soldering positions on your work. And it is non-acidic. You never want to use an acidic type of flux on electrical equipment. So never use it on Motoreras. And the stuff that you buy up at the local hardware store is going to be acid-based. It's going to have some sort of acidic chemical in it that's going to react with the metal. And you don't want to use that on electrical work because it will degrade your work over time. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that and put it right here on the spot that I'm going to solder to. And I'm going to set it down. Now, another thing, it's important to do your work on a piece of wood or some other hard surface, because if you overheat this and get it out of shape, you do not want it to move. And by keeping it on a hard piece of wood, you can keep it flat. It's not going to move around on you. Now, it's on this material that they use. I'm not sure what the plastic is, but it is much, much more resistant to heat than any other type of plastic I've soldered around, because it generally doesn't deform any at all. Okay, so I've got my soldering iron. I've got it set on high because that's what I like to use. And I'm going to clean it. And as I've shown you guys before in videos, this is just a bunch of brass shavings that is made for this purpose. And you can put your soldering iron into that and it will remove excess solder, give you a nice shiny tip. So that's for cleaning a soldering iron tip. Then I'm going to take my solder and I'm going to put it on that bronze dot, and then I'm just going to hit it with some heat. So you can see that resin flashing off there. Now I need to put it on there and keep it on there just long enough to melt some solder and get that bronze good and hot. And so that's what it looks like after it's been tinned. You can see the shiny, bright solder right there on that dot of bronze. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the crossover that I prepared, and we'll solder the feeders to that. I've already pre-tinned those, so you can see right here is the dot that's been pre-tinned, and right here it's been pre-tinned. So I've got my wire here. I'm going to put it in my stripper, and it's going to cleanly expose the wire. Take the little piece of insulation off, and then I'm going to put a little L in the tip of that wire, and you'll see why in a minute. So it's just a little L-shaped bend there. Then I'm going to get more solder, and I'm going to tin that little L that I just made. Okay, so you want a blob of solder on the end of that tip. I'm going to do this other one while I'm doing it, because I've got 2 feeders to go on this. Okay, there we go. Get the solder out of the way. And now we can attach the feeders. So let's do this one right back here first. Let me go in just a little bit closer for you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and attach this feeder right here to that dot, like so. So I'm just melting the solder on the wire tip and also on the frog. Okay, pull that away and let it cool. So you can see there, it's standing straight up, no problem. I can move it around and it's not going to come loose. Okay, let's do the other one. So we have another one right here that I showed you a minute ago. Let me get this straight. Okay. And same process. I'm going to hit that solder with some heat, and it's going to melt. And form a very strong connection there. Straighten it up a little bit. So you can see both of those are now attached to the underside of the frog. Now let me show you how I put them in place. Okay, so you can see the location here for the crossover, and I've already marked the outline of it for the adhesive to go. I've already pre-drilled the holes for the throw bars from the switch machines, or the throw rods from the switch machines, and I've also marked locations for these feeders underneath of the frog. And the way I do that, I can't remember if I've shown you that or not earlier. I simply lay it out here like this, and then I take a nice sharp Sharpie, and on each side of the frog, where that, if you look underneath, you can see where that dot is, right there. I know where that is. It's right here at this point on the frog. So then I put a dot on each side of the frog, like that. And that way I know exactly where to drill my hole. So it's very straightforward, easy to do. Then I simply drill a hole big enough for these wires to fit through. Now, at this point, I'm going to put this down without adhesive so that I can show you that. But I'll do the adhesive later. And you can see I've still got the tie bar labels here that I put on the other day, showed you about. So then I'm just going to place my feeders in the open holes that I've drilled and let it drop right down here. So that's all there is to installing a crossover. I've showed you in previous videos how I make these crossovers, and I gave you a link in the last one to the video on that. I'll try to put that in there again. And now you've just seen how to add the feeders to it, and we'll go over how you actually control the polarity in a future video when we install the switch machines, because I'm going to be using IP digital switch machines, and they have a built-in connection for powering the frog. So I'll show you that, and I'll show you how to do it with a tortoise switch machine as well. So that's all there is to adding feeders to the bottom of these microengineering turnouts. Of course, with the Walthers turnouts, you don't have to do that because they come with these little tabs, these little metal tabs, and those metal tabs go in and they are connected to the frog. You can see here there's a little brass dot here where the frog is. So you could solder to that if you wanted to, I guess, using the method I just showed you. But they provide these little metal contacts where you can install your turnout and then attach a wire to that. So, and that's important because I was concerned that in the soldering process of adding feeders here, that I would burn this foam roadbed. But let me show you that. Now this is the turnout that I installed last week for you. And as you can see, it's all glued down. It's good and tight now. The adhesive has set up. And so I wanted to go back and see how easy it would be to add a feeder to the frog on the Walthers turnout, and whether or not I would burn the roadbed when I pre-tinned these little contacts here. So you can see right there that piece of solder has been attached to the metal contact, and the heat did not damage the roadbed one bit. So very happy with that. That was the main reason that I did not like the Woodland Scenics roadbed, because anytime I got near it with a soldering iron to attach feeders or rail joiners or anything like that, it would deform and make a mess underneath of what I was doing. So this one, no problem at all. And I'll give you a good close look at that. Here we go. So you can see really close up here where I have it pre-tinned that metal contact, and there's been no damage at all. Now, if you do place a soldering iron right on the on this foam roadbed, you can burn it. As you can see here, I did that. I took this scrap and I placed my soldering iron directly on it and left it there. And as you can see, it will burn. But as you can see from right here, there is no problem with just doing a quick solder job. So I was very happy to find that out. Well, that's a wrap for today's video. Hopefully you got an idea now on how you can attach feeders to the frogs on your turnouts and get them installed on your layout up front before you do anything else, because it's a fairly straightforward, easy process, and it doesn't matter whether you're working with a Walthers turnout, a Microengineering, an Atlas, or any of the various others out there. It's all pretty much the same thing. So have a go at it on your model railroad and let me know how it works out for you. So have a great weekend and a great week, and I'll see you here next week with another video when we will start laying the flex track here on the model railroad. Bye now.